Bettor Sports Betting is your home for picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTube. Awesome show for you guys coming up today because we got the NBA season starting up tonight. And I got Jon Impemba with me, but we'll also bring in our Fantasy Alarm NBA expert, James Grande. Him and Impemba are killing the NBA coverage for Fantasy Alarm this year. And then bringing back our old friend, Justin Fensterman from Fantasy Guru to give us some NBA betting too. We'll give out some predictions for NBA MVP, titles, conference winners, rookie of the year, all that coming up shortly here. So definitely stay tuned for all that stuff. John, you excited for the start of NBA season tonight?
Yeah, I'm excited, but in classic NBA fashion, we're already dealing with like late lineup injury potential news.
Of course.
Bradley Beal was like doubtful to play, and now they're saying he's like a game time decision, and who really knows if he's going to be in. Devin Booker is like 50-50, but they said he's going to play, but like another game time decision. NBA's in mid-season form here on opening night. They gave us 2 West Coast games for whatever reason to start the night the year as well. They couldn't have given us, Philly, Boston, or like, Milwaukee, whomever. No, they had to give us 2 Western Conference teams to start off the season as well. So, yeah, love the NBA and all that it does for us here. It's my favorite sport, honestly, to cover and watch, but it is frustrating at times, to say the least.
Well, 2 really good matchups, too, if you're an NBA fan, because we're, just a casual fan, because we got LeBron and the Lakers against the defending champs, the Nuggets and Jokic. And then we got the Suns Warriors, which tons of storylines and revenge game narratives on both sides of that one. So, yeah, it should be a fun night in the NBA. We'll get to some picks for that coming up here in just a minute. But got to start with some NLCS Game 7 predictions here, because we got Diamondbacks Phillies Game 7 tonight. As a Phillies fan, I'm very nervous about this because they should have closed it out last night, but did not. So we'll see how tonight goes. All right, picks for this game. What do you got going?
Listen, I did not expect it to get to Game 7. I don't think many people did after the way the Phillies had been playing here. And you just kind of looked at the horses, right? Looked at the lineups, like up and down from pitching staff to lineup. It felt like everything was leaning Philly. And yet here we are in Game 7, whereas they can say anything can happen. I'm going to go with a couple of run props here that I like. Corbin Carroll over half a run at plus 135. Bryce Harper over half a run at plus 100. So 2 of the best hitters on each team. I think we're going to see some runs scored with Brendan Pfaadt and Ranger Suarez on the mound here tonight. So give me both of these top guys at the top of the lineup getting home.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Bryce Harper. That's one of my picks, and I'm going with his hits, runs, RBIs prop here, over 1.5, minus 120 on BetMGM. Yeah, I just think this is a spot where, Game 7 at home, this guy's one of the most clutch hitters in the game today, and I just think he shows up here. I like your run prop because I do think that he's going to be getting on base, whether it's walk or hit, but I do think there's a possibility he goes deep, so that'll help catch this as well. But yeah, I think, he's been struggling at the plate last few games here, and they've kind of, pitched around him, made him get himself out rather than trying to really pitch at him. But it's been working for them. But I think in this spot, Game 7, I think he shows up. So I like your call on that. Yeah, and Corbin Carroll, I mean, the guy, he scored a run last night, and he's got probably, we'll see how the Diamondbacks, I don't know if it's come out yet, their lineup, but they've been switching Marte and Carroll around a little bit. Yeah. So we'll see, if Marte's hitting behind him again, that's a really good chance for him to score a run.
Yeah, I like him because he's a guy that can also sort of just create his own offense too. If he gets on first, he could be on third in 2 pitches. He has the stolen base ability. He's, again, one of the fastest players probably in this game, where if it gets into a gap, he can score from first. Not everybody can. He can. So getting plus 135 on his run. And the same thing with Bryce Harper, like you said, they were pitching around him a little bit earlier in the series. So if he just gets on, there's a chance for him to score. I do agree. I think he could also just put one in the stands tonight and come through. So I looked at what you put down. You get the minus 120. It's like to score a run, you're even money. So I'll take the plus 100 and see if I can go that way.
Yeah, he is. He's in second behind Ketel Marte tonight for the Diamondbacks. I guess with the lefty Ranger Suarez on the mound, they're switching things up a little bit. But yeah, he's still got, Gabby Marino has been really good for the Diamondbacks, and he's hitting behind Carroll. So
and he's been hammering lefties this year. So I mean, crazy
lineup. By the way, on that note, Christian Walker has been terrible in the playoffs. Maybe he's due for a game tonight, but he's not come through for that lineup. But he's still hitting cleanup. So, and he hit lefties well during the regular season. So, all right, another pick I'll throw out here. I like the under on the strikeouts for Brandon Pfaadt tonight. Don't see him lasting too long in this. I looked at his outs prop, but I think it's 11.5. Was just want to stay away from that, but I do think his strikeouts are limited. It's minus 160 on BetMGM, but still, I think there's two things that kind of go with this. It's that I don't think he lasts. I could see him if he gets into early trouble, he probably gets pulled in the 4th inning or 5th inning. But either way, he had, I think, 8 or 9 strikeouts against the Phillies in Game 3, and the lineup for the Phillies, you could just tell that they were pressing a lot. They were trying to, continue their home run binge from the game before when they won 10-0, and they were just kind of swinging at a lot of stuff. I feel like they're going to be a lot more disciplined here, try to make Pfaadt work and get into the Diamondbacks bullpen as early as possible. So I do think the strikeouts are going to be limited, and it's still, a young pitcher on the road for this Game 7. We don't know how he's going to respond. He did really well in that Game 3, but it was at home, so we'll see how he does here.
This was the viral betting line where the guy took the alt strikeout props on Pfaadt and Ranger Suarez. I don't know if you saw that one. It's like Pfaadt over 8, Suarez over 7. Yeah, this dude did a crazy alt strikeout line on Pfaadt and Suarez. It was like I think it might have been over 7 strikeouts for both or over 8 strikeouts for both. It was a game where Pfaadt had that crazy strikeout game, and the dude won like 100K on it. It was the most insane line I've ever seen in my life. Anyways, I don't know how it happened.
The Phillies kept swinging at stuff out of the zone. So
he just ridiculous amount of strikeouts. I like Kyle Schwarber home run tonight. It just feels like, again, a guy that comes up in the moment, ton of power. If anything's even remotely close, he can hit it 500 feet. So it's only plus 220 to homer, which is like not really great odds for a home run, but it's I think he gets it done here tonight.
But for a guy like Schwarber, who can go deep in any at
bat, more homers than singles this year. So, for sure.
That guy's either striking out, walking, or hitting a home run. So, all right. So those are picks for tonight's game. And, after tonight, we'll get a World Series matchup. So it'll be interesting to see who faces the Rangers for the World Series. And, that first game is on Friday. So we'll definitely have some picks for the World Series coming up later in this week on this show here. All right, let's get to some NBA, and we got some picks for tonight's game. Before we bring on Grande and Fensty, let's get to some picks for these two games tonight. What do you got going?
Again, a couple of games here. I do like a few props. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, I like over 2.5 rebounds. It's minus 115 over on BetMGM. This is a guy where if you look at our Fantasy Alarm daily projections, we have him projected to go over this total. This is a number that he went over in 50% of games that he played, regular season games that he played last season. And we're looking at a little bit of a different Nuggets rotation this year. They don't have Bruce Brown on their roster anymore. They really like playing Bruce Brown a lot of minutes at the guard spots, and occasionally that's KCP sort of rotate out. This year they have Christian Braun, kind of a young, unproven player that they're hoping to step up. But in a game like this, they may have to lean a little bit more on the veteran presence of Contavious Caldwell-Pope to be out there, play that 3-and-D. And they're facing a team that takes a lot of threes, and sometimes you get those long rebounds, kind of helps out a perimeter defender go in there and grab some rebounds. So I like KCP over the 2.5 boards here this evening.
Yeah, that's a good call with just trying to replace the production of Bruce Brown in that rotation. I'll go with, Chris Paul facing his old team in the Suns tonight. So got to go with a prop for Chris Paul here. Looked at just his assists, but I'm going with his points, assists, and rebounds over 23.5, minus 120 on BetMGM. I just think that, with Draymond Green out for Golden State here tonight and to begin the season, Chris Paul has to be, one of those main contributors, especially, as a passer, dishing out plenty of assists to Clay and Steph. But I think the points aspect here, I just think he's going to be looking to really prove the Suns a little wrong here, and get back at them. And especially just in his debut with the Warriors, I could see, Steph and Clay maybe taking a little back and just letting Chris Paul work here. So I just think it's going to be a really good game for Chris Paul in his Warriors debut.
Yeah, I like it. Not only that, now you're looking at Phoenix where, likely no Bradley Beal, maybe no Devin Booker. So that's putting, Goodwin, Eric Gordon, potentially some guys that are not great defensive players.
Yeah.
Not that Booker and Beal are great defensive players either, but now you're already going 2-3 deep into your bench at these front court, backcourt positions, having to guard Chris Paul, having to guard Steph Curry. It's not likely to be a fun time. I know James Grande said on our NBA DFS preview show this morning, he thinks Paul comes out with a double-double tonight. So if that ends up being the case, your prop's looking pretty good here this evening. My last prop, I'm going to go Kevin Durant under 7.5 rebounds. Last season, during the regular season, he went under this total in 70% of the games that he played. So he's a guy that really plays more so on the perimeter these days. He's not a guy that's going to go down and play the post. He's not really a great rebounder per se either. You look at the playoffs, he got a lot of double-doubles, but they're playing 40 minutes during the playoffs. Tonight he's going to play, 32, 33, something in that range. And now you're looking at the fact that if Phoenix doesn't have Beal or Booker at 100%, does this game even stay competitive enough for Kevin Durant to be on the floor for 35 minutes of the night to get these 7.5 rebounds? They added Yusuf Nurkic. They added Drew Eubanks to help up their front court rebounding as well. So I'm going to go under the rebound total here for Kevin Durant tonight.
Yeah, and even though Draymond isn't in there for the rebounds, they still got, Kevon Looney.
Kevin Looney's a vacuum on the glass. I mean, easy 10 rebounds tonight for him. His rebound prop, I think, was 9.5. So, again, Vegas already projecting him to be a guy that pulls down a lot of boards. So I agree. Yeah,
and on your point, with it maybe not being as close, the Warriors have seen, their money line is now at like minus 145 on BetMGM. The spreads now moved to 2 in the Warriors' favor. It used to be a pick 'em, as late as last night. So for the overall, we don't have any picks on the overall games and spreads and stuff, but I will say, I'd probably go with Warriors money line if I was going that way. Yeah. And then the other one, I'd probably look at the Lakers, getting plus 5.5 here to maybe keep it close. So that's, I guess, the way I'd go. But we both like a lot of props in this game.
Yeah, bet the Lakers where they'll help you right now. Well, you have LeBron and AD on the floor with D'Angelo Russell and all them. Like, play them now because there's a good chance at some point during the year, all 3 of those guys or 2 of those 3 guys may be out of the lineup. So I'm with you. I think I'd rather take a swing at the Lakers here tonight at the plus money.
All right. And by the way, on Fantasy Alarm right now for tonight's games and for the NBA season, go check out all the content we got and get the Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription if you haven't already. Unlock content for all sports, not just the NBA. But for the NBA, I'm looking right now at the NBA tab at the homepage over at Fantasy Alarm. We got best bets for tonight's games, not ours, but Iggy Gilbert's best bets for tonight's game. We got NBA DFS breakdown by Impemba and Grande. We got, NBA DFS showdowns or the 2-game slate breakdown, underdog picks by you and Impemba. So we got plenty of stuff over there. So get the Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription if you haven't already.
FantasyAlarm.com/lock. Promo code LOCK gets you $100 off the annual subscription package. Right now, you get the annual subscription for less than $16 a month. If you just go month to month with us, Servo, here, it's about $40 a month. So for the year, you can get us for less than $16 a month. It's the best deal we have going on, and it's a limited time offer. It could literally go away today. I'm not the one that pulls the plug on these things. So while we have it, scan the QR code or go to FantasyAlarm.com/lock. Promo code LOCK there. $16 a month for all of the premium content we have on site for every single sport and access to our premium Discord. So really cannot beat that deal right now.
Listen, you make that back by winning some DFS contests or winning some bets.
NFL Week 7 for us there. I don't know if you saw the screenshots. It was an absolute monster week for everybody here at Fantasy Alarm. So paid for itself 10 times full for most people.
There we go. All right, let's bring in James Grande. Let's bring in Justin Fensterman here, our fantasy guru, NBA expert over there, and Grande, you know him from Fantasy Alarm, him and Impemba making up our NBA DFS and fantasy team there. What's up, guys? Thanks for jumping on here. We got a huge NBA betting preview with us for.
What up?
We're back, baby.
Fancy, what is this jersey we got rocking?
We're rocking the old school Ray Allen back when he was a driver and not just a jump shooter. Although, I mean, I'm talking about the second best pure shooter in NBA history.
Always going in on the slashers here.
Dude,
You're already cutting to the hoop, you know.
I mean, come on. Who do you enjoy watching more, slashers or just people sit out there at the arc like James Harden? If we see him this year.
It's a difference if it's James Harden shooting or is it Ray Allen shooting? Because I'll let Ray Allen shoot those butter smooth jumpers all day, man. You know?
Oh yeah,
I will. But I loved when he was a driver the first few years of his career when he had hair too. I'm also jealous of people who had hair. So you guys.
I'd rather watch Steph Curry than Andre Karolinko, Fancy, who
that's a great comparison right there.
I'm just
AK-47.
AK-47 that's all he did. He just went to the cup. Mm-hmm. But I'd rather watch Steph Curry, I'll tell you that.
The big three back then of him, Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer? Was that a big three back in the day?
Yeah, Mehmet Okur.
You three are the slashers and shooters on this show here, and I'm just playing point guard because I'm going to throw it to each of you guys. We're going to give some NBA title predictions. We're going to have some Eastern and Western Conference predictions and MVP predictions, Rookie of the Year predictions. Give some best bets, but also some value bets for each of these two. Let's start with NBA title, the big one this year. I'll go to you first, Fancy, because I think your jersey's giving a little bit of your top pick away here. But give us your best bet to win the NBA title according to BetMGM odds right now, and then your value pick as well.
I mean, sitting there towards the top for obvious reasons, for me, it's going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, getting Damian Lillard brings them that offensive depth where now with Chris Middleton, even if he gets hurt, they're going to be fine when it comes to the shooters. Not saying that Drew Holiday was such a big downgrade, but with Damian Lillard having that offensive attack, guys, maybe you agree or disagree. I think if there's any player that can maybe draw a defender somewhat away, an extra defender away from Giannis, it's Damian Lillard because of his ability to produce everywhere on the offensive attack. So I think that this puts Giannis in such a better position to be even more potent in the lane. And I think that's going to show as long as this team can stay healthy. And you could say that about a lot of teams, but this year I'm really hoping to see this team in the finals. Was hoping for it last year. We didn't get it. This year we're getting it.
And so Grande and John, as you saw on that graphic there, you guys are both going Celtics as your best bet. So what's the rebuttal here to fence these Bucks pick?
Who's going first?
Well, I'll let the homer in this instance lead us in this song and dance.
So listen, I think the Eastern Conference Finals is likely going to be Bucks Celtics because why not? That feels like the obvious path to where it's going to go. And listen, I agree that Damian Lillard is the best pure offensive complement to Giannis in terms of both the ability to shoot from the outside, because that man is not shy about taking 15 3-pointers a game, but he can also get to the lane and get to the free throw line as well, better than any guard he's had to play with during his time. But I still worry about now the defensive loss that team took. Drew Holiday is one of the best defensive guards in the NBA, and there was actually a stat that came out after the fact that Drew Holiday actually saw more playing time minutes defensively on Jason Tatum than any other member of the Bucks during their head-to-head matchups. So you're taking a guy that was a primary defender on JT, no longer there, actually now playing with Jason Tatum, and you have to wonder now, does that now counter Damian Lillard? Because you got to figure Drew Holiday is now going to be the man all over Damian Lillard in those matchups, leaving Chris Middleton down on the wing, likely to be defended by Jaylen Brown and or Jason Tatum in that aspect of it. Kristaps Porzingis is obviously a huge wild card for Boston. I hope that they just take a rest approach and skirt whatever rules they can to get him to be able to sit and stay healthy for the long run, because we know when the man's been able to be on the court over the last couple of years in terms of statistics, he's been one of the better front court players in the NBA. And even his defensive liabilities, which some people like to point out occasionally, he actually had one of the best pick and roll defenses in the NBA last year as well. So you're looking at the Boston new core five, shift Al Horford now to the bench where he can play a limited role where at his older age, he might maybe get the most out of him there. And then you look at what they have as their backup backcourt now, being able to shift Derek White to be that sixth man. They brought in Peyton Pritchard, gave him some money to be signed Peyton Pritchard to be a little bit more of an offensive player piece in their offense. And then on the wings, a spot where they've really struggled the last couple of years, they signed O'Shea Brissett and Lamar Stevens, which are two kind of energy guys off the bench that have flashed during the preseason. And a lot of people are excited about what they could potentially bring defensively for Boston, where they feel like they're pretty good on the offensive side of the ball. So I think the Celtics are maybe one of their more complete teams we've seen from them in a little bit, with a little bit of reshuffling, getting Marcus Smart out of the way. And as much as I like Rob Williams, the unreliable with his health being there, the Celtics, I think, are poised to make a final run. They can really, in my opinion, only get in the way of themselves. If Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can't coexist again at times this year, that's going to be their main downfall.
Grande.
I largely agree. I would say the Celtics have the best top 6 in the NBA. I think that's like bar none, best top 6 players. But I don't necessarily agree on the depth. I just think like Pritchard is a nice piece. Hauser's a nice piece. Like you mentioned, you got to get Al Horford to the finish line, and you got to get Porzingis to the finish line. And obviously, if one of those two guys get hurt, Boston probably has to make a deal for a big, because you can't go into the a critical moment with like Neemias Queta and Luke Cornett. Like that's not
Nathan Knight.
Nathan Knight. I mean, yeah. So the trio, combine them into one player, they still don't equal a whole rotational piece. But, barring that top 6 stays healthy, there's no one better in the league. So, like, I love what I saw from Boston in the preseason with Porzingis. Like, they looked unstoppable offensively. They really did. And if you watched Milwaukee offensively, it kind of looked clunky with Giannis still kind of hanging out on the perimeter a little too much. And their backcourt defense is a major issue. If Damian Lillard and Malik Beasley are your starting backcourt, like, they're not going to defend anyone. And I think Beasley is a nice piece. Like Milwaukee needed spacing. They got that. They got Lillard, they got Beasley. But as your starting backcourt, I definitely have a little concern with them defensively. Look, I think they're the best 2 teams in the East. But I think there's a lot of questions everywhere. Like, we're talking about there's flaws on basically every team across the league. There's no perfect team. There's no Warriors of 17, 18. There's no LeBron Heat teams. There's a lot of question marks everywhere. I just think Boston right now, as long as that top 6 stays healthy and they get Horford and Porzingis to the finish line healthy into the postseason, that's the best team in the NBA. That's because when you talk about postseasons too, they need 7 guys, 8 maybe in the postseason. And if Horford has been limited and Porzingis has stayed healthy, they have the legs to beat everybody else in the league.
So we got 2 for the Celtics, and we got 1 for the Bucks to win it all this year as the best bets. How about some value bets here? And interesting that you guys all went East for your best picks here, but the values, you guys are all going to the West here. Fensty, you got the Lakers at plus 1,300. John and Grande both on the Clippers at plus 2,000. Fensty, what are you on the Lakers here? Plus 1,300.
The injury risk I know is there with this team, but it's no joke that what we saw from the Lakers, once they made all the moves that they did at the trade deadline, they went from being an embarrassing team defensively to one of the most threatening, if not the most threatening defensive team in the NBA. And a transformation that quick, I can't tell you the last time I saw that. Now we go into this year, and what was the Achilles heel of this Lakers team? 3-point shooting. They addressed that a little bit now, bringing in a guy like Gabe Vincent. You'll now have Reeves, who has some more reps under his belt as well. So you've got shooters on that team. So, yes, it's a good value bet, and I love the odds there, but it's a big risk. If you're going to be spending a lot of money to make that bet, you're taking a big risk, because now I'm counting on not only Anthony Davis, but LeBron James, proven over the last few years that he's not a machine. He's a man too, and he can suffer from long-term injuries as well. So I love the value, but it all has to stay together. Like with the guys that we're just talking about with the Celtics here and their front court, these 2 guys, this team has to stay together health-wise. And if they do going into the playoffs, I'll be ultra confident that they can go and take the West. But that's a big if, guys. And like you were saying, James, there are a lot of these teams here where we have big time question marks, and it starts with health with a decent amount of them. And the Lakers are no stranger to that.
Same thing with the Clippers. And that's, who John and I both took. Dude, it's like the Lakers are old. Can they stay healthy? The Clippers, can they stay healthy? The Suns, do they have enough depth? I kind of think the Nuggets, also you look like I would say the Nuggets starting 5 is up there behind Boston and Milwaukee and Phoenix. But losing Bruce Brown, like the West is wide open. I think the West is wide open. I think a lot of people think Phoenix is going to be ultimately the team that comes out. But if I like taking Clippers as value because I think there's no other landing spot for James Harden. Like when you go up and down the list, there's nowhere else for him to go. Like they just released that the scenario where James Morey said the last text he got from James Harden said F you, and that was it. And like at some point, Daryl Morey is just going to be like I know Daryl Morey's playing hardball right now, and like he's probably trying to send him to like Utah or send him to like somewhere where James Harden's going to hate. But at the end of the day, I like taking value, and I'm not going to make a sizable bet on it, but like a unit on the Clippers who ultimately, if they get James Harden, I think that they can use him quite a bit. I think that's a pretty good core, and someone who can play off Paul George and Kawhi Leonard quite well. Even a diminished version of James Harden last year was a 20-10 guy. So I like Harden and maybe just taking a flyer on the Clippers getting Harden, and then I like Paul George coming into the year. Kawhi is a question mark. I like the Clippers' depth coming into the year with Bones Highland, and they're starting Terrence Mann. Like I like this team, so I like the Lakers, Fancy. I think the Clippers also have a lot of question marks when it comes to health. But at plus 2,000 on a team that I think James Harden ends up on, that's a pretty good big three, especially in a postseason where rotations are shrunk and you're not going to be able to guard all 3 of those guys in a series. So I'm taking some value on the Clippers there.
Yeah, I mean, James basically hit on a lot of the points that I liked as well. Sort of right now you're getting, I think, a Clippers line without the James Harden value potentially baked into it. If he got traded, you have to assume that number moves. But even if he doesn't, I think that we're seeing some of these younger players over the last few years that have been on the Clippers maybe start to mature a little bit more. You talked about Terrence Mann now going to see a bigger role. We've been big on Bones Highland for the last few years, know that he could be sort of an offensive dynamo for our teams when he's given the opportunity. But Kenyon Martin Jr. is there now as well. We really liked him when he was in Houston. He could get an opportunity to play a lot of minutes when they need to sit down Kawhi or Paul George at times. Norman Powell is a great swing man in the NBA, a guy that could see a lot of time off the bench for them and when needed to carry the offense like we saw for them there. So I look at up and down this roster, and then you look at the top end talent led by George and led by Leonard and even Westbrook to a lesser extent. I just felt like they have a team top to bottom that I think once you get into the playoffs, certainly could compete. I don't think they're going to go out there and compete to be the Western Conference winner, but if they come in as a 5 seed, I think a lot of people are going to be looking to avoid the Clippers in the middle, when it comes playoff time, if they're a middle seed in the West. So, getting plus 2,000 odds on a team like that, I was willing to take my chances.
I got to say, I think John and James, you guys better hope that Harden does not sign with the Clippers, because I think those bets might be worse off if he does go there.
You just say that from a Philadelphia standpoint. I know his time wasn't great there.
Look at his track record of the playoffs. This dude chokes every
Bro, he's a
team.
chemistry killer.
Well, they won't have to rely on him as much. Again, he's going to quickly become going to a team where he goes from the number 1, didn't work out, went to a team where he was the number 2, didn't work out. Well, now he's going to go be a number 3. So maybe then it will work out for him when George and Kawhi are kind of leading the way there, and he kind of settles on. But I think wasn't there a report in the offseason that said Houston was even willing to give him an opportunity, but when they talked to Harden, he was like, yeah, like I want my stats. I don't want to play second fiddle to Jalen Green. And they're like, and Udoka was like, never mind then.
Yeah.
We're here to try to build something and win. If you only care about scoring, you're not going to fit for us. So.
Yeah, he did Houston a favor. I would much rather have Fred VanVleet at that point with that roster composition.
Well, why? Fred VanVleet was a sub 40% shooter, and you're talking about James Harden. I mean, James Harden was better than Fred VanVleet statistically.
VanVleet's a little bit of a better defensive player, at least
Fred
from
Fred VanVleet also has won a title.
It's true.
And he cares more than just about his stats, like he's on his own fantasy basketball team or something like that.
I'm just saying, I think I understand the narrative behind Harden, and I understand that like people just look at Harden as a stat patter, but James Harden's been a pretty good basketball player for quite a while. I think
He's
people
played for a lot of teams, James. He gives every team a year and then gets himself traded away.
Yeah.
Great chemistry guy to build around.
All you need is a year for the Clippers this year, Fancy.
True.
All you need is 1 year for betting on championship.
February is the trade deadline, so he once he goes there, he has a few months to decide if he's happy there.
James, check your text. I think the last text Fensty sent you was "FU." All right, how about the East? Maybe some repeat teams here because we got all of you guys are liking the Celtics. Fency's going with either the Bucks or Celtics. We're not going to repeat those breakdowns, but no Sixers in these picks, which I'm not surprised at, and nothing to argue as a Sixers fan. But let's go to the value bets here. Grande and Fence, you guys are both on the Cavaliers. John's on the Heat as one of his value picks. Fency, go with the Cavaliers here. What do you like about them as a possible value in the East?
I mean, love them. They were a top defensive team last year that just simply caved in the playoffs, and the Knicks shooting caught fire. They didn't have an answer for it. I mean, I didn't expect the Knicks to beat them at all. And now this year, I think they're going to be playing with a little bit more of a chip on the shoulder. It's also year 2 of Donovan Mitchell now. This backcourt is very fluid offensively, but I think what you're going to see from the front court, especially Evan Mobley. And I think when I was on with Servo, you and John last time we talked about this, Evan Mobley getting to that next step. And I believe, John, you said you wouldn't be surprised if maybe Jarrett Allen is somehow dealt at the deadline, putting Mobley as the main player in the middle for this Cavs team. Let's just say Jarrett Allen is still on this team, though. I'm loving this front court, and it started with the Skyline lineup back when they had Markkanen. Just a very good, sound defensive team, takes fast-paced teams, slows them down a little bit. And again, what we saw in the playoffs against the Knicks was an outlier. They just caved, and that was it. And sometimes teams fizzle out. This year, they're going to be more competitive and playing with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I feel like Cleveland just lacks and this is no disrespect to Donovan Mitchell, but I feel like they just lack a shooter. Right, like Mitchell and Garland are definitely great drivers. Mitchell can certainly shoot the basketball, but having a guy like Mobley and Allen both sort of down there and kind of clogging it. We've looked at Mobley, not a great outside shooter. We know Allen's not a great outside shooter. If they could add someone on the wing to kind of post
Max
up and shoot like that.
Shrews.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily subscribe to that because Garland was a 41% 3-point shooter last year, and Mitchell almost shot 39%.
There's a difference between being a good 3-point shooter and being a guy that you rely on to be an outside shooter, like a setup 3.
Well, Shrews.
I mean,
they added Shrews.
And they also
exactly
got Niang. They also got Niang too, who could help stretch the floor as well.
Right.
And I actually do think that wouldn't be the worst for Cleveland because we saw against the Knicks the double bigs just didn't work. Like it worked during the regular season, it just didn't work in that series. Like that was the downfall. But I do think on the shooting aspect, Max Strus is exactly the guy you're talking about, John. Like spot up shooter who is there for one job. He is there to make threes, and we saw it in in the playoff series. He didn't make threes for Miami, and shot him out of the series, shot him out of the finals.
Well, that's the thing. You're looking at a guy that is proven-ish, but is it a Spoelstra system thing, or is he talent? I'm very interested to see how Vincent and Strus perform outside of Miami, right? Because that's where they found success. You saw a lot of the highlights of RJ Hampton lighting it up during the preseason. It's like, do guys just go to Miami and Spoelstra just has the touch to unlock some of these guys' talents? I'm a little curious here now, putting him on a different situation if he's able to find that same level of success.
Well, speaking of Miami, that's your value pick, right? Even though
it is
team that missed out on Dame Lillard this offseason, but you still like them as a dark horse.
I think there's still a move that could be made for Miami at some point. They're also a destination team when it comes to sort of priority free agents and things like that. So you can never count out the Miami Heat. I've said this for years. They terrify me every single time they're in the playoffs. They were an 8 seed last year and ran through everybody because Jimmy Buckets, whether he's got emo hair or braids, the guy is an absolute monster when it comes to playoff time. Bam Adebayo, even if they still have Tyler Hero there. And the fact that they are able to find and just develop these wing players, Caleb Martin, RJ Hampton is there. Like, there's more to come. Highwood.
Josh Richardson,
like whoever, right? Like, they're going to find guys on that. Jovic will probably be a guy that comes through and is a productive player this year, right? Like, so for me, I'm just never counting out Miami. So you're getting them at the odds that you're getting them at right now. When it comes to the East at plus 1,300, yeah, like sure.
But
they
got rid of Omer Yurtseven.
Well,
Sure.
They should have been playing him anyways, but they did.
They have Haywood Highsmith. That's the guy.
That's what I'm saying. Haywood Highsmith last year came out and was like a stomper during the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, like, Spoelstra finds guys. I'm not going to say he's the Bill Belichick of the NBA, but in terms of getting the most out of little talent, seems like Spoelstra does that more than anybody in the league as a coach.
The Pats fan has thrown in a Belichick reference.
Well,
in the NBA
I got to do what I got to
discussion.
do here every now and then.
I am very anti-Miami this year, just on the record. I think that I don't disagree with the Spoelstra take. I would rather bet Heat to miss the playoffs than Heat.
Ooh.
Wow.
Make a run in the
Ooh,
even
juicy.
Yeah. I would almost rather bet Heat to miss the playoffs. I think they missed out on everything, and Pat Riley he's dropping the ball a little bit over there.
Yeah, they waited too long for Damian Lillard, and that's what happens with these teams when they let the media start to get inside the war room. Then it screws everything up, but mainly it slows things down because the rest of these free agents, it doesn't stop for anybody else. Like, nothing stops just because Damian Lillard is on the block, and Miami got trapped.
Right.
Well, I just don't think they wanted to meet whatever the asking price was.
Of course
Well,
not.
they said this is our offer and this is it. But and then your best offseason ad is Thomas Bryant and Josh Richardson. That's when I think you look at what Pat Riley has done outside of adding Jimmy Butler and what Spoelstra's done developing players. It's we should start looking at Miami on the whole and being like, well, guys, we actually haven't added anyone. Not discrediting their playoff run last year. They were great.
Yeah, who's to say that Caleb Martin doesn't take a step forward all of a sudden now and becomes a legitimate wing that you can rely on? Obviously, he took a little bit of a step back in the finals against the Nuggets.
He was
hurt.
He
shot 70% against three against the Celtics.
He helped get them there, though.
He was hurt.
100%.
Yeah, he was hurt, and he was hurt.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, if he takes a step forward, if they revitalize Duncan Robinson, there are certainly guys on that team that Spoelstra can boost up. So again, I'm always afraid of the Heat, man. They just give me nightmares.
All right, how about the West? We got a lot of the teams we picked to win it all were the East teams, but how about the West here? John's going with the Warriors as at plus 700 as his top pick. Grande is at the Suns at plus 300. Fensty's on the Nuggets at plus 250. Got to start with you, Fensty, because this is the first mention we have of the Nuggets here. I thought maybe one of you guys would pick them to win the title again, go back to back. But Fensty, you like them to repeat as West champs?
They proved to me last year that you don't need 8 or 9 deep to win the title. And I thought that was going to be their Achilles heel in the playoffs. I thought that was going to ruin them. Jamal Murray has an off night. Who's going to step in there? But even so, they proved that they could go 7-8 deep max and still be able to win the title. Jokic is also, because of his ball handling skills, one of the best ball handling big men, if not the best in the league. It's just so amazing, and it makes him very hard to guard because he's so agile. And again, I doubted this team last year. I'm not doing it again this year. I know that they lost Bruce Brown, who was a key midcourt cog for them. Still, for me, I mean, clearly they do feel that Christian Brown is ready to fill his shoes a little bit. So I'm still thinking that Denver is going to be up there at the end of the day. I wanted to say Phoenix, guys. I'm just so worried about Kevin Durant breaking apart. That's what he does. He breaks apart, man. And that's why I can't put that bet on Phoenix.
Grande, what's the rebuttal?
I mean, we could just say, again, it's it dates back to what we were talking about earlier. Outside of, if one person in the Denver starting five gets hurt, where do they turn to? Because they do not have Bruce Brown this year, and they are expecting Christian Brown to take that leap. And Mike Malone went on record yesterday and said Julian Strother needs to rebound better. He was their preseason darling, their first-round pick, so it doesn't even seem like he's in the rotation. So Peyton Watson is probably in the rotation. He is a 0 offensively, a good defender. They just have a lot of question marks, I think, outside their starting 5. And if that starting 5 stays healthy, they're great because they have Jokic and they have Murray and they have everyone returning. Michael Porter is one of the best shooters in the league. Aaron Gordon is a clear glue piece for them on both ends of the floor. But I worry about the people behind the starting 5 if there's someone that gets hurt. So you could say the same thing about Phoenix. Yeah, they get hurt, whatever. But so do the Lakers, who we've talked about. So do the Clippers, who we've talked about. Warriors are old. Every team in the West has question marks. And I don't think the one question about the Suns was the depth. I actually think their depth isn't too bad, especially when you're talking about their starting 5. Yeah, Bradley Beal hasn't started as point guard, but Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are both going to just handle the ball. Essentially, Kevin Durant is a 7-footer that is better than some point guards at handling the basketball. And then you have Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen spacing the floor for those guys. You have Josh Okogie, fancy special slashes to the basket. Yeah, they're going to probably struggle defensively at times because Yusuf Nurkic is their defensive anchor. But they struggled defense. They had DeAndre Ayton over the last couple of years, and we're in the NBA Finals 2 years ago with DeAndre Ayton as their defensive anchor. They're going to outscore everybody if this team is healthy. I don't think there's going to be a drop, any type of feeling out process offensively. Kevin Durant can play with anybody in the world. He has shown that time and time again. He could play with he was playing with the best player in the NBA not too long ago with Steph Curry, and they were the best team ever. So I just look at Phoenix from top to bottom. Even if one guy does go down for a bit, hey, Kevin Durant's out for 15 games with an ankle. Well, guess what? They have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal to carry the load, 2 of the best scorers in the NBA at times. So I look at it this is the chalk pick, obviously, and I think a lot of people, it's either Denver or Phoenix at most of people, the top of most people's list. But if Phoenix does stay healthy, another if in a Western Conference team, I just don't see anyone beating this team in a 7-game series.
All right, John, you get the Warriors?
Yeah, I just think the Warriors. It's very hard to repeat as an NBA champion, so it's one of the reasons I didn't take the Nuggets here. And the Suns, for me, I think they could just be maybe year 2. Sometimes chemistry clashes. Guys got to play together, figure it out. And we've seen not many teams really get together and win it right away. Miami, the LeBron Miami team lost first time out. So they could see that initial struggle there for them. With Golden State, though, again, it's a core team that's been around together for a while. They added another veteran presence in Chris Paul that I think can settle down a little bit, especially come playoff time. I mean, they never really replaced the offensive game of Jordan Poole, which I think could be maybe a little bit of a problem for them. But it's certainly a team that could go out and make a move and bring in a scoring threat like that around the in-season trade deadline. But unlike with Poole, you're going to have Chris Paul now that's a better defender, can run the offense, can still score the basketball a little bit more, take some of that pressure off of Steph Curry to allow him to be sort of an off-the-ball scorer along with Klay Thompson. So I went with the Warriors again, kind of a tried-and-true team. They're going to really be there around the end of the year as it is. So you're getting plus 700 odds on a team with Steph Curry. So I'll take those odds there.
All right, and then value bets for the Western Conference. We touched on the Clippers for Impemba. We touched on the Lakers for Fensty. Grande, you're going with the Kings, though, plus 2,500 over on BetMGM. What's the case for the Kings here?
148 games last year, returning pretty much every single player. The Keegan Murray leap year 2 is a thing. And, we'll see what Vezenkov provides them, even if he's in the rotation. But this is the Euro Basketball Player of the Year from a year ago. So you add a guy like that. De'Aaron Fox has gone on record saying he's the best shooter he's ever played with, and he plays with 2 elite shooters in Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray. I know Kevin Huerter had a tough preseason, but we saw Sabonis is a really good center. And that was, I guess, the question mark kind of playing alongside Miles Turner. They had 2 centers. And now we've seen with Domantas Sabonis, he's a nightmare to guard out of the center position. And, again, I think just the continuity that John talked about last segment with the Suns, the Kings have. And they are a team who finished 3rd in the West last year. They won nearly 50 games. They lit the beam almost 50 times last year, and that was fun. I just like the direction that this team is going. And, maybe they're the team with the least amount of questions in the West, right? Like, out of all the top teams, the Kings they have a solid starting five. They have great depth with Malik Monk, and Davion Mitchell is a good defensive stopper off the bench. We know Trey Lyles is a really good seventh man off the bench in the front court. And JaVale McGee is someone that the NBA love. Like, people in the NBA love JaVale McGee, whether he's JaVale or Pierre, because he does have an alter ego. People love him, and that's another bench piece. So I like the Kings as a sneaky little value out of the West. Just bringing everyone back and saying, let's run it back. And, that doesn't always work, but 48 wins, and maybe they take another step and make a serious run into the postseason here.
That offense is so threatening, but that defense has to be there for that balance.
Correct. I agree. That is definitely the one part that lacks, because as good as Sabonis is offensively as a center, he is complete polar opposite defensively, and he doesn't really provide a lot there. They're going to need White Bread Harry Barnes to be a big defensive stopper for them this year, and Keegan Murray to also take a step on that end as well.
All right, MVP predictions. Let's go quickly with these guys. Touched on some of these guys already, but John's got Jokic at plus 450. Grande, you got Jason Tatum at plus 700. Fancy going with Giannis at plus 600. Fancy, I'll go to you first with Giannis. Why do you like him to win it here?
I think that not only is this team going to be top two, we've talked about it, the East runs through Boston and Milwaukee, but also with what I said before to bring it full circle, that with Damian Lillard on the team being as much of a threat as he is offensively, I think that Giannis is going to have even easier trips to the basket. We know what he could bring defensively, matchup nightmare, great two-way player. And I mean, even last year when it was Jokic versus Embiid, Giannis was kind of sitting there out in left field, still a thing too. I think he takes the MVP as the Bucks make their journey to winning that title.
And John, you like Jokic to go back to the MVP here after Embiid won it last year over him.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't need to win an NBA title to win an MVP. I think that's been proven, and he's obviously the best player in the league. Listen, I was in on Embiid last year. I thought he certainly just played enough to deserve the award, but that's just going to make Joker, I think, even more motivated here to win the NBA championship and not win the MVP. He's going to go for that this season. And
James, you like Tatum?
Yeah, he was the favorite a month into the year by like a large margin, and then he kind of tailed off. I think the additions that they made are going to make it really hard for defenses to hone in on Tatum night in, night out. Leave Porzingis, I dare you. Leave Derek White on the perimeter, I dare you. Like, Jason Tatum's going to have a career year, and plus Porzingis isn't the best rebounding big. I think Tatum 8.8 rebounds last year. I could be looking at a guy averaging close to a double-double this year.
All right, and then value bets for MVP. Impemba likes LeBron James at plus 4,000. Grande, you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as does Fensty at plus 1,800. Fensty, I'll go with you for Shai here. What's the case for Gilgeous-Alexander?
Well, the thing is, with this Thunder team expecting to take that next step forward and to be very competitive, this guy's their anchor right here. This guy's their everything. Their stat producer. The offense is still going to run very much through Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like we've been talking about with a lot of these vets, though, health. That's the one big thing here, because I'm expecting the Thunder not to be top two in the West, but I'm expecting them to be competitive. They're not going to be that competitive without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They lose Shai, it's over for them. Just such a great combo guard of a player. Again, matchup nightmare that he is. And I'm thinking that if you see the Thunder massively improve, this guy's going to have some stock when it comes to the MVP.
Yeah, Grande, I remember we were talking after the Dame Lillard trade, and you had mentioned back then that Shai was like one of your dark horse MVP guys you were looking for.
I mean, I've made it no secret the Thunder are like my Cinderella team this year, and I don't think they're a year maybe away from like a finals run, and that's why they didn't make any of my bets, because we are potentially giving out picks here. But we've seen the last 3 years, the MVP did not come from a 1 seed, and that was a trend for the last 30 years prior. You don't need to be the 1 seed anymore for your team to have an MVP. You just need to get in middle of the road. The Thunder's over-under this year, 44.5 wins. 45 wins last year would have been the 4 seed in the West. If the Thunder are the 4 seed and are hosting a playoff game, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has a year like he had last year, he is seriously in contention to win MVP. The only thing is, as Fancy mentioned, he needs to play 65 games. He played 68 last year, but the 2 years prior, 56-35. He cannot win an award if he doesn't play 65 games. So as long as he stays healthy and the Thunder are ascending like Vegas projects them to be at 44.5 wins and maybe higher, he has a really good chance at taking home some hardware this year.
And speaking of staying healthy and playing enough games, John, you like LeBron James to win this award.
Nice.
What's the case for Bron?
I mean, he's going into his age 39 season. Last year, he went basically 29-8-7. I understand the last couple of years he hasn't played enough games to qualify for the award, but I think now that there is sort of some limitations potentially placed on that, I think he goes out there. This could be his last year. We don't know. If he continues to go out there and gives us a 39-5 year, and they're like James says, they're a 4 seed in the West. Who's to say LeBron James can't win an MVP to close out his career? It would be a nice fitting end to things here. So we're going there.
John, did you not see the Beats commercial?
No.
That his wife narrated? Dude, he is playing not only with Bronny.
Yeah.
It's pretty much been said in the commercial that he's going to play until Bryce is in the league, and he wants to play with both sons before he retires.
We'll see how long that lasts, but either way, I think LeBron at plus 4,000 is a great bet on an MVP award. So.
And Bryce is viewed as possibly a better player than Bronny.
Yep.
Better prospect.
Well, he's already taller than LeBron.
Dude, he is. It is going to be. I mean, it's unfair, dude. It's unfair.
He's what, 12?
Yeah.
Let's wrap up quickly with Rookie of the Year predictions here. You guys all are going Victor Wembanyama as your favorite. He's minus 145. Listen, I no argument for me. And I don't think if you have paid attention to Wemby in the preseason, just swatting balls, draining threes. I mean, this guy's ridiculous. So if he stays healthy, if he plays enough games, obviously, I'm sure you guys would all say that's like the only detriment. But assuming he does, he should win the MVP. But value picks. John and Fenster, you guys are both on Scoot Henderson at plus 450. Grande, you're on Chet Holmgren at plus 350. I'll go to you, James, here first for Chet Holmgren plus 350.
Yeah, look, we've seen this a couple times where he's not a rookie. He was drafted last year. He missed all last year, so he qualifies. We've seen this happen a couple times where guys who aren't traditional rookies come in, win the award. We Blake Griffin. Like, it's been a thing. It's kind of unfair for others, but look, he's going to anchor a really good young Thunder team. He's a very good defender. We've seen pictures. He's put on a lot of muscle for a guy that was drafted last year, looked like a stick. He looks now just like a little more thick of a stick. Like he's still stickish, but it's like less, he looks less skinny, definitely put on a little bulk, and he's going to need that playing in the inside. But he's a guy who can stretch the floor. He's an elite defender, as I mentioned. And I like the Scoot pick, and Scoot's going to have all the development he needs in the West. But I do like Scoot can't shoot. And if there's ever a three that develops from Scoot, like if he can start stretching the floor, he's going to be a big problem. I think Chet is just a little more developed at this time than Scoot. I don't think either are more developed than Wemby, who's just a freak of a human being. But I do think those are like, in whatever order you want, 1, 2, and 3, just, Scoot's obviously the best value of the three in the market, but I do think Chet edges him out a little bit.
All right, quickly, the last word. I'll give it to you, Fensty, on Scoot. What's the case there?
He's going to be running the point for Portland. I love his speed. I mean, again, these guys know I'm a big-time fan of the slashers out there. I mean, he's going to be able to get to the basket, and hopefully through all those reps, he is able to improve that shot. The big question is, as we've seen with NBA awards, can he make the Blazers somewhat competitive, meaning they win more than 10 games this year, more than 15 games. That way, it's not like you're giving it to a guy who's on a last place team, because as we've seen, how the team performs tends to sometimes influence these awards.
All right, awesome stuff, guys. Thanks for all you guys for joining here to do a full NBA betting preview. We got to get out of here, but you can follow Fensty over at on Twitter at Fensty Sports, and he's a Fantasy Gurus NBA expert doing a lot of things over there. So definitely check him out there. And you guys know James and John. They'll be live coming up right after us doing a little NBA DFS preview show for tonight's game. So stay tuned for that. Thanks, guys, for joining here. And Fensty, well, I'm sure we'll bring you on throughout the year to talk some hoops. So, all right, guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTube. Later.